So
Cool.
I guess I should give the big welcome to everybody and let people know what's up because we got a great special guest here. Super excited. We've had Nick before. And so at least the people who are following storyboard art, they should know who Nick is. And we mentioned him in the last event. I think was super awesome because you're talking about your Pixar experience and everything. So I'll let you say hi. How about that?
Sure. Hello, Sergio. Hello, everyone. Thanks for
Right
tuning in.
on. One thing I wanted to, I guess, kind of intro is let me bring this up so I can the live page so I can monitor anybody who has questions. So I should say this. Let's talk a little about the format here. So we've invited Nick for a special occasion to go over artist submissions in our visual story course. Now, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, this was a free course that we put together to get people involved in doing visual storytelling. And there were 5 assignments that we do at the end of each lesson. In fact, that course is still up. So if you guys are into that, go to visualstorycourse.com and you can see all the info and you can sign up if you like. So the current participants and the artists in there submitted work that we asked them to do for Nick. And we compiled that. There was actually a lot of submissions. It was excellent. So I truly commend everybody who put the effort in and did this to get this in front of Nick. Now, because there were so many, we could not, we just don't have enough time to go through all of them. So we made a random selection of about 10 people, and we're going to look at, we're going to see how many we get through, right? Again, thank you guys for doing this. We're just, with time constraints, we can't get to everything. So the idea here is that we get a super awesome pro like Nick and his take on what to do. So I should mention, in fact, how about this? Can I ask you, Nick, can you tell us a little bit of your background real quick so that people who don't know who you are know what you've been up to and why you're such a badass story guy?
I don't know if I'm a badass. Yeah, I can tell you a bit about myself. I'm from Canada. I am older than I look. I worked in TV for a while before making my way to Pixar, where I worked on a whole bunch of features. Up, Ratatouille, Toy Story 3, Cars 2, Brave, shorts, lots of things. And then I went out wandering into the world. And now I work a lot in independent film.
Awesome. That's great. And yeah, we'll ask you about what you've been working on in a bit.
Sure.
Some really cool things. And I know you've been also, you're always busy, so that's really good. So, okay, let me preface this by saying some of the assignments that we were doing with the guys, because I think, you know, these are the people that were involved in the visual story course. And let me pull this up so I don't get this wrong. Give me 1 second here. And hold on. So the ideas were, one, to get people, and they're all levels of artists here. And I think what's important, at least for me, to I always like to be encouraging and like to just get people excited about visual storytelling, because I'm really into it. I love story. I love doing this kind of stuff. And that is like the I just want, you know, people may not have experience doing this, or it might be the first time, or maybe they're coming from another discipline, or they might actually be story guys and do have experience. There's going to be a whole range of people. There's also a range of drawing experience, but we threw out a couple of assignments at the end of each lesson. The first one was to create 10 single panel storytelling images, which is basically a composition exercise. The next one was to board out a sequence, and we're going to see some examples of this here too, because the majority of people were doing this, is a story sequence with Superman having coffee with Captain America, right? And that is a staging exercise. And for you guys who may not be familiar with staging, maybe you can give us a primer on that too, Nick, but it's basically just arranging the characters in the scene, the choreography of the camera, and all that working together. The third assignment was to board out a sequence of grandma gets fired from her job. And that was the idea, is to really pack some emotion and maybe something a little more dramatic, okay? And then the last two assignments, I don't think we have any examples of that this time. I think we're focusing more on the first 3. But the fourth assignment was to do a previs focus thing. It was using actually 3D and kind of combining your 2D, 3D skills. And then the last one was to create an animatic based on any of the other assignments that we did in the visual story course. And we do have, if you go to, I should mention too, if you go to Facebook, if our Facebook group, Visual Storytellers United, that's where people have been posting assignments and other things as well. Some really inspiring things there too. So with that, how about we get into it and we get into the first one. And I'm going to try and keep time because, like I said, this can go on and on. So, you know, with you, Nick,
Hold me back.
I'll try and like, you know, push this along so we get to as many as possible. And I should also mention too, if I haven't before, that we're going to do Q&A towards the end of this. So you guys stick around, and anything you want to ask Nick, you can do so, and we'll take those questions and comments from Facebook. So, so go for it. So how do you want to do this, Nick? Do you want to screen share your own screen, or let us know how you want to get started?
Yeah, I can do that. So, you know, I've got these 10 sort of work samples. Why don't we just start? Yeah, if you want to just give me.
Okay, let me give you. I don't think you have permissions here. Host. Let's see. Wait. Hold on a sec.
Sure.
How do I do this? No, I don't want to show on screen.
This is every meeting in the world.
I know, right?
Just like people.
I should know this, but I've
going
done
through
enough
menus.
Zoom by now that I should get this. Okay, so I'll just make you the host, and that should be able to do it. That's
Sweet.
Okay. Let me know if that worked.
Okay, sure. Let's see.
In fact, I bet everybody's used to Zoom right now because this whole COVID lockdown, everybody's been on Zoom communicating with each other.
I know, right? So we're all experts in something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just want to start out by saying that, like, overall, you know, the work that I saw was super great and really inspiring. And I was actually just like, I was like overcome by like how much hard work and thought and heart people were putting into their work. So I'm sorry we're not able to talk about everyone's work, but let's try to get through a few of these submissions. So this first one's by Andrea Paredes.
Yes,
Not sure how to pronounce
Paredes.
that last name. And maybe you can refresh my memory. This is the assignment where you have like, you know, a series of storytelling images. These ones are just sort of like
so this would be assignment
images.
1, and this is a example of, well, you want to do 10 single panel storytelling images. The idea is in one composition to try and tell a story.
Yeah. And, you know, I was pretty bowled over. I think that these are really appealing. I think they're very charming. And, you know, they're also like staged really clear, you know, from the compositions to the use of tone, all of that stuff is great. I feel like if there's a thing to work on in these drawings, if you just sort of want to like plus these, Andrea, whichever one it is, I think you want to build confidence with your camera, you know. You're already doing it. I think you have a very good intuition for like putting us in this sort of subjective space of your characters, but like just push it. Really make that camera tell us something about the scene and how we're supposed to feel. You know, use it to emphasize sort of scale and point of view and atmosphere and status. Like in this case, you know, you have these creatures who I'm guessing are being hunted, right? So there's like there's difference in status between them, and you can like push the composition to like reinforce that relationship. So the example that I decided to look at was this one here, where it's a beautiful composition, everything's staged really clearly, but I feel like you could just like kick it up a notch and like get really specific about, you know, what exactly we're supposed to focus on and how we're supposed to feel about it. So I did a little draw over on
cool.
my own time. It's something, you know, part of this is like what you're going for. Like a lot of these have a great sort of like indie comic feel to them, right? Like I'm reminded of Bone. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Comic, right? Really, really great feel. And so things like Flatten Out, if you wanted to like make these, again, it sort of has to do with like what you're trying to get out of the scene. If you wanted to make this more dramatic, You could drop the camera a bit lower, you know, really push that character on the right, push him back. And so that way we have like a clearer focus around what these characters are looking at, which is this egg. So we
How
got this
cool.
nice
I love
line.
it. Because you know, one thing I noticed really quickly is how
Mhm.
you're kind of directing the eye to that character holding the egg, right?
That's what it's all about. Got to direct the eye.
How
Anyway, these are
awesome.
great. Yeah, these are great, great work.
And
Um,
can I ask you a question though? Because when you say using the
yeah.
camera to focus and really, you know, confidence with the camera,
Hmm.
uh, are you let me see if I can try and put this in words.
Sure.
Are you talking about getting the camera closer to the characters or using lenses to exaggerate things? Like what? Because I think that could be open to
Sure.
many interpretations.
I want it to be open to every to every interpretation, which is why I say confidence, because like I look at these and I'm like, obviously you can draw, obviously you can stage things clearly, obviously you have story ideas, and obviously you have great intuition for sort of laying these things out. Um, I think it's really a matter of like taking the next step forward and just like following through. So that is to say, it could be any of those things. Like in this frame, for example, we have like, I'm guessing, you know, we have like a pet and that pet's owner, right? But like, whose
Yeah.
point of view is this scene from? Is it from the pet's point of view, or is it from the owner's point of view, right? And so, depending on the story that you're trying to tell, depending on what you want to get out of your image, you can change any of those things. We could be really close into the pet and change the scale, but that means dropping the camera. That means thinking about the way things overlap in space, right? That means
Yeah.
foreground, middle ground, background elements. Um, or maybe this is supposed to be a sort of a comedic scene. So maybe you want it to be like really flat. Maybe actually you go more sideways and it's like a Wes Anderson film and very graphic. And, you know, so a lot of it has to do with intention. And when I see these, I see that technical know-how is there. You just got to like commit to that intention and just like, you know,
That's
go
awesome.
for it.
See, and this is one of the examples. Like, okay, even if you didn't get chosen, we got awesome example here from Andrea, but that this is what I'm saying, that we can learn a lot from looking at other people's work and applying that to our own. Just those, I think those tips, like what you're saying, Nick, is so true, man. I love it, and I think it's always a refresher to get that kind of to hear that, and then to think, okay, am I doing that in my own work?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How about we move on to the next one
Let's do it.
and get into some other juicy details.
Sure.
Thank you, Andrea. So for those of you guys watching, we're going to give you a digital round of applause for that, because that is it's hard to do this. But I should say it's also, you're putting yourself out there, and we're going to make it, you know, those of you have voluntarily submitted this, right? Because you want Nick's feedback. But it is very brave for anyone to do this and actually put it out there. So highly commend everybody who's doing this stuff. All right. Who do we
Yeah,
have
for
up
real.
here?
This is Annika Giannini, I believe.
Yeah, Annika Giannini. I believe that's the way you pronounce it. This was also a really strong example, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of great stuff in here. Really confident drawing, really loose, which I like. There's like a real sort of economy drawing, like it's not a lot of extra stuff here. And also, you know, the just like the um it's hard to tell if these are drawn through completely, but you know, the just like the basics of solid drawing and perspective are there. Anyway, there's also an example of, you know, many of these assignments.
Right.
Superman one, the individual frames, but
Yeah, pick
I
one
thought,
that you feel.
sure. Well, I mean, I thought that I'm a story artist, so I was very interested in this like little sequence. It kind of looked like a children's book to me, so I was like, oh, Grandma's new job, great. I got these like nice little images, and again, just like you know, a really pretty good foundation. Uh, but I think that there are some ways that um, that whoa, what was that? Did you hear that?
No.
Well, I did.
Okay. What was it?
I don't know. It was a ding.
Oh, it might have been. I'm screwing around with the Facebook stuff, so sorry about that.
That was great. It was entertaining. Um, I think that my one, if I had to pick one thing to work on, it would be to like ground the camera. Because again, there's like a nice like facility with a lot of aspects of drawing, but I think that you could, when I look at the storytelling exercise, I feel like you can, if you just grounded the camera and sort of set like a baseline of how you're going to use the camera, and then pick like exceptions. It's sort of like in a science experiment. You have like your controls, right? And then you have your, I don't know, science, what variables, I suppose.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So in this case, when I click through it, hopefully you guys could see this okay. When I click through it, again, a lot of like good virtuoso stuff. We're moving the camera around. You're able to do that. We're following our characters. But I think that if you just pick your spots, you could do it a little bit better. So I'm just going to share my Photoshop. I sort of isolated this panel in particular because I thought that there was some interesting stuff happening. So one thing that I just want to highlight is, again, moving around the camera a bunch, which is great. But, you know, in these frames, I feel like the camera's placed a little arbitrarily. And I feel like, again, if you like lay down a baseline and then you like choose spots where you're going to set an exception, you could just like tell the story a little bit better, right? So the baseline, I would say, is this little character that we're following through, this little boy. So it might be helpful to think about your camera as something that is like highlighting this like little kid's experience. Think about it from that kid's level, for example. Maybe you want to shoot a lot of this stuff at the kid's eye level. But when I look at this dinosaur image, the camera is actually all the way up at the height of the top of the ladder. It's not necessarily bad, but I think that if you did a little thing like drop that vanishing point, drop the horizon line, all of a sudden you get this amazing sense of scale because this dinosaur is pretty big. It's a big thing, right? I think that, you know, another thing that you could do, or that would happen then, is that you get more of that ceiling. We can see a little more of this perspective, and so the like, yeah, I don't know, like the delicacy of like grandma, you know, dusting off the dinosaur skeleton. I just think you could like reinforce it. You know, similarly with the frame above, the little boy like seeing this. Again, you know, I don't think any of your choices are wrong. I just think they could be like stronger for the storytelling. So, you know, the shot that you have is like one of like somebody like recognizing something, seeing something. And so in this case, in the case of this sequence, this like little 1-2, like let's be in closer to this kid so that we can see his reaction, you know.
These are great. These drawings look awesome, Nick. And I think can you is there a way you can like flip that layer on and off to compare
Yeah.
the two? Because one thing
believe
I
so.
saw was how I think you are using the composition, and also, well, if we reference the camera, like in that
Mm-hmm.
first image where the kid is with the dog in his jacket,
Yep.
uh, it feels a little distant right now in this version. And then what you did is you pushed the camera forward, I noticed, and it feels like you're centering him and framing him, like you're using the composition a little more. And you know, it's all choices, right? It's not necessarily right or wrong, but I think the what you're getting at, having it from the point of view of this kid, that first one seems to take advantage more of the composition and the framing than the previous example, let's say, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can see I mean, fortunately, I'm working from a good foundation. The seeds are there, and you know,
Yes, yeah, these
it
are
is
strong
all.
drawings already, right?
That's right, and uh, yeah. So I think this is more about like tweaking. So the thing is, if you these are all just choices, but like if you I'm responding to the story, and the story says that this is about this like little kid's point of view. This is about this kid's journey to go see his grandmother. So like I think that what this reframing does, it's not about scale in general. It's not about being closer in general. It's about saying like, who is this story about? What is this story about? And then like using the camera to help tell that. So in this case, we're really telegraphing that like, this is about this what this kid is seeing. And this isn't just like a shot of the room. This is what this kid sees. This is like, you know, more or less a point.
Right, exactly. That's so rad. I love it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Can you show the rest of the sequence actually? And because I think just to give an idea of what what Annika did here, which is actually I think pretty cute, is because the assignment was grandma gets fired from her job, right? So and then after the dinosaur thing, what happens there?
Well, little dog runs in, and next thing you know.
Right, so she knocks down the dinosaur statue, and then she gets canned apparently, which is kind of sad and ironic. It was supposed to be a emotional, excuse me, an emotional sequence. But let's take like, can I just riff off what you're saying? If we took this from the point of view of the kid, what from what you showed, like how would that affect the rest of the shots or the beats in this particular sequence that Annika's showing? And I think that's something that's kind of food for thought, that we can think about, oh, how can we do the rest of the sequence also from the point of view of the kid, which I think is a really, really cool concept.
Well, I think the next shot, you know, is right. It's like, it's sort of a punch in, like, this is what the kid sees, you know, like we're seeing the scene, but now of course we're seeing the grandmother. I think that this shot underneath might be a little early to go to like a Dutch angle. Sorry, there's cars driving by. Might be a little early to go to a Dutch, but I think that.
Why do you say that? Because is it too exciting too soon?
I think it's too exciting too soon. I mean, the dinosaur skeleton falling, that's probably the thing that is like really exciting. And then even more exciting than that is like seeing grandmother's reaction. So one suggestion that I might make, even just with the existing boards, is to have everything fall and then go to grandma's reaction. When a thing happens, like we want to see how our characters feel about it, right? So you could just take, you know, one of these sort of medium long shots, and after all the bones fall down, then you cut to grandma, who's like, oh, you know, and then you cut to like the boy and his little dog, who's like, yeah.
Very cool. And I love it. The people, guys, are already reacting on Facebook. Like, both of the examples that we've seen so far are really strong. So it's great that you guys are. It's also about being supportive of your fellow artists too, and so a couple of good compliments being tossed around about the dinosaurs and the previous one.
A lot of anatomy, so, a lot of good dinosaur anatomy in there.
Right. Moving on to the next one then.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, this one.
That one's a PDF.
This is a PDF.
Which are you, if you're in Bridge, you might be, oh, there you go. Cool.
I'm Acrobat now. Let me just change the orientation for you guys. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
How do I click through this? So this is a nice little sequence. We got kids going to lunch.
Yeah, let me give credit to, this is from B. Bloss.
B. Bloss.
I don't know what the B stands for, but good old B. Bloss here is going to give it to us. All right.
Yeah, this is a little sequence of sort of lunchtime being served, and then the lunchwoman goes to the principal's office, and the next thing we know, she's walking around outside, and she's not in a good place. But then, who's there? Little girl with her ice cream. Da da da. Heartwarming. Everything's good. And we got a little coda at the end.
Yeah.
There we go. This is just like the end of Up. They're at like Fenton's eating ice cream. Well, I love that. That I feel like this is reaching for like real emotion, which is great. You know, it's like it's a light, cute, sort of silly story. You know, but a lot of it's kind of an unexpected character, but I feel like there's real emotion and sort of relatable moments. I think those are really great, great aspects of this. I think what this needs to really go there is a little more information to establish the relationships between these characters. So Sergio, it's a lot of setup and payoff, right?
Yes.
Film
Definitely.
is like a blunt instrument.
Yeah. And
Not
if
a
the
nice way to
setup
put
isn't
it.
right, then you're gonna have a weak payoff, right?
Basically. So again, it's not that anything here is weak. It's just that it could be strengthened if you just added a little more. So clicking through this originally, it was hard for me to tell who's the main character. And when you go, I am not good with this. I'm just going to tell it to the internet. I don't know any story stuff.
See,
I'm terrible with
you are good
story
with this
theory.
modesty, because I don't know if I believe you on that one. But okay, why do you say you're not strong on these particular things?
Well, I think if you go out there, if you there are so many books, there's so many websites and blogs where it's well, this is the protagonist. Well, this is the influence character. And well, this character is the main character, but not the, and
Right.
I think there's all of those theories have legitimacy to them. And so I know little bits of all of them, but I don't personally subscribe to any single philosophy around how to understand those delineations. I'm
Right.
looking at the work. And when I look at the work, I open on this scene. And if you were to ask me who is this film about? I don't know. I don't know. Even
Yeah,
from
see,
this shot where I'm learning that we're meeting an integral character. And from this shot where I'm learning that we're meeting an integral character, it's not entirely clear to me what their relationship is. I kind of, looking at this, I kind of think I'm going to follow this little girl through the story. And then we don't, and so I just want to know, is that intentional? Is it accidental? There's no one way that a story is supposed to go, but to establish relationships, it's subtle and it's something that the audience feels, but you got to kind of tell us who we're supposed to be rooting for and what journey they're on. And then you can, once you start getting fancy, you can start switching point of view and showing us different dimensions of relationships. But
I love it. That's such a key
setups.
point, because even on that first shot, if you look at that now, that makes so much sense to me now. It's so would it be better for this particular moment to highlight either the girl or the grandma? In this particular, let's say that the grandma's going to have an event happen to her. She gets canned by the principal, right?
Yeah.
So would it be better to adjust where we're talking about the camera so that's focusing on her, the composition is all about her, she might be the focal point, versus a just general wide shot where we see a lot of things happening in the cafeteria?
Yeah, I think
what would be a solution, you think, for this kind of story?
I think that's right. I mean, I think it's either one. Either you focus on the kid or you focus on the grandmother. You just got to pick one. And so but it's not arbitrary. It depends on the story that you're trying to tell. So either, but make a commitment to one of them, right? So I'll show you. I started thinking if I had to give a quick note, what would it be? And
cool! I love it.
Can you see this at all?
Yes, I'm a big fan of drawovers, by the way, because this is a way that coming up as a story artist, I remember directors would draw over my stuff and they would look at my work, and I always got a lot out of that. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I'm just cutting you off.
No. I get a lot out of it too. I was I'll just give some quick feedback, and then secretly at 3 a.m, I was I really need to look at this. What would I do? And so I actually followed the same sort of line of thinking that you did, Sergio. I was well, maybe instead of having 3 lunch ladies, maybe we just single out one of them, So we have can you see my Photoshop screen here?
Yes.
Okay. And so maybe we single out this one grandmother character, because we're going to focus on the character. And then let's say we have our plop, it comes down on the plate. Maybe the camera adjusts up so that we can see the kid. this is just what happens to kids at this school. They gotta eat this slop. No good, no good. And then the kid can like exit screen right. And then the next kid comes in, and who is it? It's our little girl. She's having a bad day. You know, she knows what's coming, and she's already like, she's just resigned to it. It's so sad. And this is what I'm talking about. Establish a relationship. Then she looks up at the lunch woman. Good Lord. And the lunch woman is like crabby, not having it. She's got her hair in that. Oh man. But then she sees the little girl. Her heart breaks. You know what I mean? So just like, again, just like registering, like, who are we following? And you can switch it around. It doesn't have to go in any particular order, but like set up and payoff. So, you know, establish like, this character feels this way. Now we're going to see a change. You know, the character's wondering this. Now we're going to see a change. The character's reacting to that. Now we're going to see a change. The character feels such and such way about it. And so if you did that across the entire sequence, so basically my note is like, make 1,000 more boards. If you make enough boards to like give us all of those moments of like recognition and transition and state change. Yeah.
Wow, awesome, man. That is so cool. And, you know, even looking at this, I could totally see how this would pay off with even the existing material, right? Like if we took, like you're suggesting here, and at the end we see that scene where like the older woman and the girl having ice cream together, it's just, there's so much more of a bond, I think, with what you're presenting here then. And so the other thing to keep in mind, I think, if you guys are looking at this, is like, isn't this a relatively simple fix for what is already been presented, right? I would consider that relatively simple. Like, you're just adding a couple shots, strengthening relationships, and you get, you know, a tighter example out of it, right? I don't know. I'm throwing that out there. Maybe you guys out on Facebook can correct me if you don't think so. But right on, Nick. That is so awesome. Do you have anything more on this example, or do you want to?
No, let's keep going. I mean, I think again, like, great foundation, and just keep going. I remember getting that advice when I was a young story artist, and I was like, oh, I mean, keep going.
Cool. Yeah. So, and like, we are getting comments too. Like, we are maybe taking some of this out of context, because I'm getting a message here from my moderator here saying that it could be that the lunch lady is the grandma of that particular girl. But I would also argue this, that probably wasn't set up correctly to be able to know that as an audience member. So there are many different ways.
Then you want to see that. Yeah.
Right. We should show it. Right.
I have a friend who's an oil painter, and I remember a long time ago, I asked him, like, I don't know what problem I was trying to solve, what I was trying to do, but I was like, in a painting, should you be able to tell the difference between dawn and sunset? Because they're like similar-ish. And I was like, yeah, they're completely different, you know? And so I think it's about, if that is this girl's grandmother, then you got to show us. Like, unless you give the audience that information, we won't know. So, could be though.
Very true.
Could have a relationship.
Cool.
Well.
All right. Now we're moving on to Carlos Rafael.
Yeah.
With this sequence, I always find really fun. We're getting some really inspiring and fun examples in the Facebook group. So Superman sits down, has coffee with Captain America.
These are great. I maybe won't narrate the whole thing, but you know, I thought that this had like a lot of really solid shots and was super thorough. Look at that. We're even stirring the coffee. Look at this, adjust up.
Yeah, this is cool.
I couldn't tell if this was a camera move, but I would, let's make it a camera move. Thank you for coming. It's good to see you again. Please.
Popeye shows up.
You're a sucking sailor. How's it going in the Justice League? Everything is going well. Like, I love that I really like that it's banal in their dialogue. I think it's great. Anyway, yeah, super thorough. Love it. I would say that if there's like one note here, it's actually, every note that I give is going to be the same. It's just like push it further. So like in this case, the drawings are great. the sensibility is great, but I would encourage you to loosen up. I think part of the charm and humor in this sequence is that everything's like really simple. So I'm not saying like complicate things, but there's a lot of great specificity, and I feel like I guess the word I used earlier was like confidence. Like I think if again you just take what you have now and keep making choices, I don't know. It'll be for the benefit of the scene and for the benefit of your career. One good example, I think, in the scene that we have here, Captain America is like giving some responsibility to Soups over here. Cool. That's great. That's what this scene is about.
Yeah, he ends up handing him the glove of the Ultron glove, right? Is that was basically what ends up happening in the scene?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know who Captain America is.
he's you know what? I'm not the biggest fan. My moderator is actually the one who could handle that. He's a super comic expert, Wahab. But at any rate, from what I know, Captain America is the leader of the Avengers, and
sure,
they get
sure.
I won't go into it. He's a badass too, but yeah.
I'm sure. But my point is the scene has like a place that it's going, right? A scene is a sequence. Again, like I'm not the best with the terminology. I would call this a sequence. A sequence it's got a beginning and a middle and an end. We know the end is this kind of sharing of confidence, right? It's this like I trust you, like you should have this. I'm not saying make it over dramatic or anything like that, but again, think about setup and payoff. So like here's Captain America at the beginning, checking his watch, but like otherwise it's really hard to tell, like how does Captain America feel? How does Captain America feel when Superman arrives? Like doesn't feel any way in particular. It seems happy enough. Same with the Popeye sort of moment. You know, it's cute, but like there's no like urgency behind anything that's happening. There's like the scene is about like the character getting what they want, and so I want to know what Captain America wants. I learned that because you tell me at the end, but everything that's like setting it up doesn't necessarily reinforce that. It isn't like leading me there. That I'm like, oh, that's why they're meeting.
You know, that reminds me kind of this concept that I hear it repeated a lot, just this idea of contrast and visual contrast. And there's also like emotional contrast and expectation. So if like what you're saying, just to riff off what you're talking about, if Captain America, we start off like he's nervous or he's jittery or he's like, really anxious to get the approval of Superman. And then when we see Superman, we see there's a change, and then we're contrasting what happens at the beginning to what ends up happening later on in the scene, and we show that visually. And so that's what I think reminds me a lot. Just one principle, like, oh, okay, how can I do this so that we're going to get the result that you're suggesting here?
Yeah, and you can see that there are like seeds of that here. So, like for example, checking the watch. That's like, this is like a visual indication that there's like some urgency, right? But let's pretend, here's one way you could take it. Maybe when Superman arrives, Captain America like really rushes to get up and then spills his coffee, and that's why Popeye needs to come over. And then Captain America needs to pretend like everything's casual, everything's cool. So how's it going over there? Then maybe that's not how you want to play it, but right. That is like a way to play it so that the audience like wants to know, like, oh, this character wants something. What is it? What's going on here?
Yeah, and even what you just pitched there is really cool. Like, wouldn't that add a little more visual interest than or opportunities for visual interest than maybe what we're seeing at the moment? Like right now, it's a very, very even keel and kind of static presentation of these two characters, where I would argue almost that like there's so much juicy material that you can pull from Superman and Captain America. In fact, my buddy Wahab, moderator here, is saying that we should both be ashamed that we don't know about these superheroes. My friend, I know what Captain America is. Like, we could take him. He's got a shield. You got Superman. He's really big. Like, he could, we can make visually, we could make these two guys a little more imposing, that you'd want to see why they are meeting together at a coffee shop. Like, I think that was part of the intention for the assignment. Is like, what can we do with these two characters to make it really, really interesting? And I think there's a lot of creativity going on with the sequence. And I love, I just want to, if I could, repeat what you're saying, that you like to push things, right? You're saying that one of the things that you say often is that you like to push it. Is that something you give feedback for often?
Yeah, it's like the most useless feedback, but also the most true. I do give that feedback often because it's everyone's making choices, it's just a matter of making like stronger choices a lot of the time. You can see what the person's like going for. And often there's just like a little more they could get out of it, just like a little more, a little better. Certainly that's the way that I approach my work. I definitely do not get things right the first time. And so it's always like, what am I really trying to do here? What I really want to get out of this sequence or this image or this pose? And then I gotta scrap it and like do it again. Come on, you gotta push it. So.
Yeah, I always say it's like push it to the extreme, even further than you think it should go, and probably you're almost there, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then if you go, and this is what I say, if you go too far, you can always reel it back. Like you could say, okay, well, that gag or that extreme camera or something that you put in there is just a little bit too extreme. But at least you gave it that effort to go to that, those extreme ideas. Because I think the tendency for story artists, especially guys who may not have that much experience, is to not push it enough, to not really go that extra mile and try and solve those story issues.
Yeah.
I love it. Those are great comments. All right, who's up next?
Well, I mean, these are not in any particular order. Let's go.
I should say, let me give a quick reminder to the guys who are listening too, that we're going to have an opportunity to ask your own questions for Nick. So stick around. We'll get to that pretty soon. So
I'll try not to be too long-winded with this stuff.
Cool. All right, go for it.
Oh, look at that! I didn't know I could click.
So this one is from Craig Smith.
That's right. It's another Superman, Captain America. I could see that there's like a ton of effort put into the drawing, like a lot of attention to detail. And I thought there were a lot of nice moments, like this nice little look. And, some really interesting choices, like acting choices, just like the lean and the squint here, and then going to the point of view, a lot of great stuff. So just to give you guys the high level story, superheroes at one table, villains at the other, mayhem ensues, and then like the cafe owner comes out, knock it off, all of you, I won't have you busting up my place. And they all like turn around, and she's like, get out of here, come here, you guys, get out of here. I think, again, ton of great stuff. I think my one note would be to remember that a sequence of shots is a logic, right? A story, the story has its own sort of inner logic, and the shots that you choose, they're just there to reinforce that, to bring it out. So they got to rhyme with each other, the visuals and the sort of and the story. So in this case, if we're just to take this like one little element here, it's funny. All the setup is that these guys are both enjoying quiet days, but then of course, because they happen to be in the same place, mayhem ensues. When the cook comes out, I think the idea is that this humble person is able to quiet them. And so what I would actually love to see more than the sequence of shots, I think you can go, I think that the structure of shots that would rhyme with your story a little bit better is if you went from really dynamic shots when they're fighting to all of a sudden like a really banal shot, like a really boring shot when the owner comes out. I think it could even be like one long shot of the diner from like up high, and you just see like four of them looking ridiculous in their outfits, right? Like, who's Captain America? I don't know. I'm Canadian. And then the owner's just like, get out. And then you cut to a shot that's even more boring than this, right? It's like the small, boring person who is able to like quiet them, and now they're sort of in. Now they got to stand outside.
Right, they're like
Anyway,
scolded little kids, right?
they're scolded, but the logic here, the logic of the joke is that there's this contrast, and so I think the logic of the visual should be that you have this visual contrast. So again, there's nothing wrong with the drawings here. Like, look at this one. There's like great perspective. But I think that actually what the scene demands is that the fighting needs the dynamism, and then these ones need to be quiet. And that's the joke, you know? Mm-hmm. So this one's like a storytelling, sort of storytelling note.
Wow, super cool, man. I love it. Very, very cool.
These are great. Yeah.
How about, let's see if we can fit in another one. And
sure.
Before we get to like the Q&A section, and we'll warm it up for those who have some questions. I
feel like I got to do this one.
Okay, great. So
cool.
This one is from Satish Biradar. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Forgive me if I don't.
Yeah, man, I saw
some strong drawings here. I remember I saw this too. Some really cool examples.
Yeah, I was like, I hope Satish is doing like a Facebook Live event sometime soon. I mean, really, these are great. The drawings are really solid. They feel like very researched, which I love. Like, for me, it's like details like the little ridges on the steering wheel, you know, even the scale of the steering wheel, the way that this cloth is tied around his head, like that to me, you know, rings true to life, right? Even like the depressions in the truck here, and I can guess that this is made of wood. Like there's observation in addition to solid drawing, and that's great. None of this is like photoreal or anything like that, but there's a sensitivity that I appreciate. Plus, staging, super clear, use of tone, really great. And one thing that I like about the way the tone is used here is I feel like it's used in two ways. Down here at the bottom right, you know, this is like a more, none of these are natural. Every drawing is an abstraction, but this tone here like represents like a more sort of naturalistic effect, I guess, you know. Sun's outside, it's darker inside the truck. Creates great staging opportunities in the drawing. In these other panels above, you know, it's not like everything is toned, you know. There's shadows, things have like local tones and stuff, but these are toned for clarity. These are toned so that we can see like, we're looking at the truck, got it, you know. This is toned so that this shack is like set against the background. So there's a like really nice separation of, you know, middle ground and background. That stuff is awesome. And I was like, man, I'm going to be hard pressed to find some notes.
Yeah, I was going to say, the drawings I think are really strong. Is there
Great.
something you think that you could push it, or like, is there, what could be done here to maybe enhance the visual interest, if there is any? I'll leave that.
There's plenty of visual interest. Plenty of visual interest. I think what I would want to know is, what is each of these images about? Like what's the intention? What are we staging? So it's clear staging, but clear staging of what, right? Take any one of these images, any one. Again, beautiful drawing, but like, are we, is this a homecoming? Are we showing up at a place where we're, are we suspicious of like who's in the shack, you know? Or is the truck actually like an outsider? Is the truck a thing, like a threat from the outside that's coming in? So again, you know, in stories, certainly in these images, there's like a relationship between elements, but what is that relationship? So if we take a look at the image in the upper right, obviously the truck is like rolling in, well, maybe not up. I think it's obvious that the truck is rolling in towards the shack, but what's the relationship between those two things? Is the truck just gonna drive by? Is this where has this been a 5-hour movie and we've been waiting this entire time for the truck to get to this shack and now we're finally here? Like, there's no way to know because it hasn't been, I feel like it's because it hasn't been decided in the shot. Or if it has, it just needs to, again, just like needs to be clarified. And a lot of that, again, will come through the camera. Like, who are we privileging, right? So bottom left-hand corner, we've got like an over the shoulder of the truck. That helps, you know? So again, like you pushing the camera a little higher, a little lower, a little bit favoring one character, diminishing another. You know, are we like seeing the like empty expanse and seeing that this is like this little hut is like an oasis? Like what do you want us to get out of this shot? And so I think that would be like the next level here, like really dialing, like figuring out what that is, and then just like refining all these elements.
That's so awesome, man. I love it because I always say this too, that it's not necessarily about technique. There is a certain command that you need to have over your drawing skills and your perspective and your technique of delivering a shot. Certainly understanding camera lenses helps, and perspective and all that. But then it's what you are saying that I feel is really the most important. And that actually takes less technique than you think. I've seen great story artists that are, story sketches that are just sketches, really rough thumbnails that tell more than a fully rendered, like, illustration, because of kind of what you're saying is like the intention of the shot, to use your words, it was on point, versus, let's say, all this awesome technique was just trying to cover up maybe, one of the things I like to say is that don't cover up substance with technique, because people over render stuff and they try to put all flashy bells and whistles and shadows and color or whatever, but then the shot itself isn't right for the moment. And
I will say, I don't think that these are these like missed the mark, and I don't think they're overdone or anything like that. But it's again, it's just about refinement. Like you're drawing a shot because you want to show the audience something. So you should, as an audience member, I should be able to look at it and say like, oh, I see what you're telling me. That's it. That's got to come first.
I would say, somebody like Satish here, who has such strong drawing skills, because it looks like this is just a snippet of some kind of story. I'm sure it would be easy for somebody like Satish to really push it and take what you're saying and send it to the next level, because the technique absolutely is there, the structure is there, right?
I looked at these and then I was like, I'm gonna watch some Indiana Jones, and I did that yesterday. And Spielberg is just so good at staging. But these are very inspiring. So
awesome, I love it. How about with that, we open this up to questions, if you wouldn't mind, if we take off the screen share for a second, because I think it's probably a good refresher, and we're almost out of time. I want to give enough time to everybody who is listening here to give their questions. And let me jump in here into the Facebook feed and pull off some of the ones that we're seeing here. So this is great. Let me pull this first one. This was from Joshua here, who writes, I would love to hear more about using efficiency and expert storytelling to deliver a message with limited time, in case you don't have the time or ability to draw, like we're seeing here with some of these examples. So talking about efficiency and well, he's saying expert storytelling to deliver a message. What tips would you have there?
Yeah, it's not about drawing in the end. So I think that in that sense, there's a level playing field. Part of being a story artist is that I think too often gets neglected, is that you're a storyteller. So my tip would be, don't have a lot of time, don't know how to draw, all good. You got a little bit of paper, you got a pen, like just write down what's important to you. That's where I always start, and I think that no matter what I'm working on, in fact, like especially if what I'm working on is complex, I want to boil it down to the heart. What do I want people to walk away with? What do I want them to know? What do I want them to feel? And if you can pin those down and build around those, then you'll always have those as sort of North Stars, if you can have more than one North Star. Yeah.
Right, that's awesome. All right, let's get to another question here. Um, and I'm just going to pull these randomly as they come. So forgive me if
Yeah,
you
sure.
guys have been waiting for this. But okay, this one's from Javi. Javi Ideas here, right? My question would be, Nick, I'm really interested about the not so famous side of, oh, sorry, give me a second. I'll pull this up. Not so famous side of a storyboarding career. As you in your LinkedIn profile appear, the role of creative consultant and storyteller for branding. So it seems like he's asking about, oh, there's more to the question. Let me pull this out. Um, I've never thought, he never thought about branding. What can you tell us about that side of storytelling, or let's say the industry? Also, I saw you
Yeah.
managed to switch from a pure storyboarding and story jobs for film, and what challenges are in each. So let me take that first part and throw it at you. So he's
Sure.
asking about, because, oh, I guess we should mention, maybe you should talk a little bit about some of
Mhm.
the other things that you've done, which honestly, I actually think were probably pretty related, but I'll let you answer that question.
They are related. So for anyone else who's snooping on me on the internet, I don't know why you would do that. We're not online or anything. Um, I eventually left Pixar, and I've had sort of a funny discursive career in like tech and design and a whole bunch of other industries, healthcare, usually from a sort of design perspective. And I think that if there's like one element that ties it all together, it's the reason that you tell stories, the reason that I'm compelled by stories and animation and by drawing and by creating storyboards is to like deliver meaning to people, to like create meaning, to like build empathy. You can even in, you know, this short session, you can see that all of my notes are like, what do you care about? What are you trying to tell us? Make us feel a thing. Who do you want me to identify with? Like a lot of those same questions, I think, come up in other contexts. And so like that's actually the skill set that has been a little bit portable, because you know, there are very different worlds, these other worlds, these other industries, and often one of the things that is missing is a human connection. And so I think that that's what the best of visual storytelling, animation storytelling, film storytelling, that's what it can do. It can connect us with each other. And so I've tried
How
to make that
cool.
my
So
career.
is it the same portfolio? What would you need to do to get into more of a consulting kind of thing, or do more illustrative tech work?
I have no idea. I mean, it's very accidental for me. I think that a lot of it is that as a story artist, you're often working for other people. You're often working on projects that aren't your own, and you're often given like an assignment that is maybe not native to you. You're just given this thing, and then your lead is like, okay, go make things up. And you're like, okay, I gotta go like learn about a thing and think about relationships and emotions now. And like, I gotta go research, what does a tree look like? Or like, oh, this thing is set in medieval England. Okay, I gotta go look that up, you know? So there's a kind of like fearlessness that, and like curiosity that you gotta, that's like embedded in working as a story artist. I'm trying to remember what question I'm answering. But I think that is the that's like what that portfolio, that's how you build that portfolio, by being a curious person. And so for me it's been accidental, but often I've been in places where they're like, we don't know how to do this. What would you do, Nick? And I'm like, that's an interesting question. What do we do? You know, and if you start from like with like a beginner's mindset, if you start from a place of not knowing, um, and then ask a lot of questions, you'll get to some interesting places.
Nice, that's awesome. This is kind of a follow-up question. And this is from Kenny Belenka. We know Kenny from the mentorship. Let me take a little sidetrack note here
Sure.
and mention a little bit about the mentorship, because we got a couple questions that was coming from Instagram too. So I keep mentioning this thing, the mentorship, and guys like Kenny who have been around. And we had a really inspiring group. This was a group of artists that we led to do a series of exercises over the course of a whole year, which is why we call it the mentorship. And it became a really exciting and inspiring thing for me, at least, to participate in. And we are looking to launch that again, and it's coming up. We're going to lock down the dates, but it most likely will be in September. In fact, we are trying to lure Nick and his expertise as well to participate in that. But I don't want to reveal too much about that, but that was one of the reasons reminded me, because Kenny was part of that. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you, buddy. And your question. So let's go to your question, Kenny. This is kind of a follow-up from what the last person talked about, is where can we find your art on the internet, Nick?
Buried somewhere. You can find I had a blog once upon a time in the early days of the internet. It's called the Firehouse Stomp, which was named after well, the name took its inspiration from from an old Disney band from the Ward Kimball, Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnson days. Anyway, if you go to the Firehouse Stomp blog, you can find some of my artwork there. And also, I'm head of story and co-producing a short film right now that it's for an artist named Ian Chang, who is a contemporary artist. He's making this piece for a museum here in New York, where I am currently. So, once people are able to travel freely again, hopefully in the spring, you can come and see our film.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks for that. I'm trying to scan the questions because we're almost out of time here. I'm gonna take these last questions here, and let me pick one that would be probably relevant to the most people. I think this one, I think, is actually, it's a question that comes up a lot, but I'd love to hear your opinion about it. So this one comes from David Chapman, and I think fortunately we're running out of time, friends. So if you have more questions, please send it to us, and we'll try our best to answer it offline. But this one is coming from David here. Are there any art books, either instructional or inspirational, that you would recommend to a story artist? And also, what are your suggestions for connecting and talking to artists? Well, David's talking about via LinkedIn, but those are kind of like two questions, but I guess we'll take that one by one. So the first one is, sure, what are the any instructional art books or inspirational things that you would recommend for people coming up?
Yeah, I mean, every book is great. Just read books in general. I really mean that. Read books in general. I think that if I had to be really targeted, I would say the Walt Stanchfield books, Drawn to Life, Drawn from Life, probably both. Those are excellent, and they're all about storytelling in drawings, like for animation, and they're such a huge part of my education. There's another book that I would recommend. This is less practical, more inspirational. I would say The Art Spirit by Robert Henry.
I love that book. That's a great book.
So good, so good. And what else would I recommend? I had another one in mind. Oh, I don't know if it's exactly perfect. Certainly, it was like a good. No, they're great. They're great books. I reread them all the time. I really like the David Mamet's On Directing Film, and Three Uses of the Knife, which are books about our relationship to drama and our relationship to visual drama, visual storytelling. I guess if I had to throw a fourth one in, maybe it would be, I don't know what number I'm on. It might be Stephen King's book about writing. That's a pretty great one too.
Ooh, excellent, man. Those are great suggestions. I love David Mamet, and actually those books are really, I've read a couple of those, are great. I haven't read that Stephen King book, so that's an awesome suggestion. I can't wait to do that. That seems great.
It's good. The Stephen King book just kind of reminds you that we've all got a long journey, and that's how it is. And that's it,
Yeah.
Right.
And then the last part of that question, which a couple of people have answered or asking similar things, is how do you connect with people? And I would almost say, you're talking about David here, how do you connect people via LinkedIn? But I would almost say just the whole internet sphere, and this is probably very relevant to what's going on right now with the coronavirus and things like that. What are your strategies, let's say, to connect to others online?
I don't think I have any strategies other than that you should be sincere. You should be a nice person and be kind and ask questions and yeah, yeah, and follow through, I guess. For example, like I've had like a number of people reach out to me asking for help or advice or feedback or some sort of like contact, whatever it is, and then I'll like reply very kindly, and then they don't get back to me, and I'm like, well, I guess we're not going to be friends. You know, so I think it's really just about being just a real person, you know. I don't know that there's much more than that. And if you're being a real person, then I'm not sure if it matters how you get in touch with them. Don't call people randomly at work. That's weird. Don't do that. Don't do anything weird. But
Right.
yeah, message people on LinkedIn, like send them an email at their blogs, like write a comment in their Twitter. I don't know, go to an event and see them afterwards and be like, you're really inspirational to me. Just think about how you would feel if people approached you, and be kind in the same way. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that is excellent advice. It's probably a good note to leave on this. Nick, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out to just helping us, the community, story people, and just everything that you do, and just the comments that you've done in this hour for the people that have gone through some story training with us. Nick, that's awesome. Thank you, my friend, for doing that.
It was super fun. Thank you so much.
Great. And just for you guys out there as well, you know, if you have more questions and stuff, please keep them coming. I mean, that's part of the reason we have this community up here. It's why we're on social media, so that you can share ideas and also share questions, and we'll do our best to get to them, even though we're running out of time today for Nick. And thank you guys out there for listening to us and participating here. And yeah, best of luck on all the projects that you guys are working on. And Nick, same thing to you. Good luck. I should say one last thing is, where can they find you? Where is there some place that you would tell people to go to follow you, or, you know, Instagram page or Facebook? Do you have anything like that going? And I find it funny, your response, because you give me.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I get the same reactions a lot of times from story guys, that we're all we're so busy working that it's like, do I have time to do social media? Do I have time to keep up a blog? It's like, it's really hard work. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but where would you point people to check out more of your stuff?
Well, I mean, I would say the Firehouse Stomp, but not that gets updated very often. But I think this summer, it's a summer project. I think I'm going to bite the bullet and create some sort of art-based Instagram account, because it's how people connect. So I don't know. Look out for me in the world, I guess. Wish I had a better answer to give you. I'm sorry, I don't.
Right on. Awesome, Nick. Well, thank you, and thanks everybody for watching. And this is us signing off, and we'll see you. We'll catch you next time. All right, guys. Take care. See ya.
Thanks.